Welcome to Agency Acquisitions and Exits. I'm your host, Peter Lang, and today I'm excited to bring you a conversation with Peter Kang. Two Peters for the price of one, co-founder of Barrel Holdings. Peter and his co-founder started their journey back in college. I did too. This story is going to be so familiar because, like many of you, he started building websites on the side. And having since then scaled his agency into a multifaceted holding company with multiple acquisitions, spin-offs under his belt. In this episode, Peter talks through his journey from the early days of website building to finding business units within clients that he doesn't feel he can service the same way anymore, to now acquiring companies and how those deals get structured to build out this holding company of Barrel. We'll dive into his first acquisition, lessons learned along the way, and how he transitioned from focusing on being a practitioner to becoming a strategic thinker in this holding company. He shares insights into how his firm set up long-term growth, the impact of adopting a decentralized model for the agencies. Man, this episode is packed with actionable advice. So if you're an agency owner thinking of scaling through acquisitions, creating long-term value, building a holding company, this episode's for you. Let's dive into Peter Kang's incredible journey to find out how he built the future of his holding company. Let's dive in. Peter, thank you for joining me.
Peter, thanks for having me.
Now, where you are now is very different from where you started. So help the listener or the audience member get to know this journey that you've been on. Where did it start?
Yeah, I'd say, it probably started even before I met my co-founder. I was always into making websites. I was an early adopter. Did it for kind of, money on the side in high school and into college. I went to college in New York City, Columbia, met my co-founder there. And, immediately we knew that we were going to be, good, like a good duo together.
What was it about that made that so clear, though?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost was like the skill set aspect of it. 'Cause I was more like design geared. I like kind of interacting with clients. And then my co-founder, he's very organized, like knew how to code, which I was kind of weaker on. And so, yeah, like I was like, oh, somebody who could take my designs and build it into a nice website. But then beyond that, just complementary personalities, just I like to think bigger picture. He loves to dive into details and make sure things will actually work. And so, yeah, we had that nice balance going in. Yeah, the two of us, we hit it off right away. Ended up collaborating on a bunch of different projects throughout college, whether it was freelance projects or we tried starting a few different startups ourselves. But ultimately, we one thing we came away with was like, hey, if we can find a way to work together in the future, let's really take advantage of that. I'm a couple years older, so I graduated first and went into investment banking for a year. But even throughout my first year of banking, I was meeting up with my co-founder every weekend, and we were pumping out websites, just on a freelance basis. And we really thought, hey, maybe if we build something, I could leave my job after a year and then do something together full time. So that's exactly what happened. I got my bonus after the first year, and I was like, hey, I think I could live off of this for a year, if anything. And then we incorporated Barrel. That was our first agency. And then, yeah, it was, I mean, the first year I still had to work alone in an apartment, but then, by the end of that, my co-founder, Wook, joined me, and the two of us, we just, decided to, go into it full force. So
Take
that
over the
was
world. Yeah.
with the world. And the early clients were, I mean, it was like mom and pop shops, a lot of nonprofits, a lot of pro bono work, but we had no connections, nothing, but we thought, hey, if we could hone our skills, build a portfolio, and build some of these connections that could lead to more work, just
Yeah.
be patient, things would work out.
That's a lot of confidence there, Peter. Where did all this confidence come from? Because you went from, you told me in the prep call that you didn't study business. And
Right.
then you went into investment banking and you're like, you know what? This investment banking thing, let's be an entrepreneur in web and build websites. Like that's either like blind optimism or extreme confidence or somewhere in between. Where does that land?
Yeah. I think it was a lot of it uh, kind of felt growing up. Like I always liked having my own projects, like extracurriculars that were just self-initiated. So, even in elementary school, I would have my own magazine. Like I just make magazines at home and try to sell it to my friends. Or, later on, like start a basketball league with kids in town. And, just like there's always like a desire to like create and oversee and just kind of see a vision come to life. So I think there was always that burning desire within, and I think and honestly, like I didn't even kind of like latch onto the word entrepreneur at all. Like I was like, oh, I just want to do my own thing, and if it happens to make enough money to help me support myself and like it gives me the opportunity to then the freedom to continue doing it, that's what I want to do.
Wonderful. And have a partner.
Yeah, and
That's also helpful to start a company.
100% because I think at the end of the day, like if I mean, we all hit like road bumps and tough moments, but like to have that support and have someone to kind of, complain to or just kind of commiserate, that I think was a big, boost in confidence to being like, all right, like we can kind of weather tough times.
So what year was this? What year did Barrel start?
2006,
Okay, so 2006, Barrel was born. Your co-founder had graduated.
2007. So yeah, he graduated in 2007. So
So
there's
he even started he's been in it since before he graduated.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You locked him in, Peter.
No, it was great. He didn't have to do job interviews or nothing. He just came straight.
No,
Yeah.
got his diploma and just walked into his life.
Yep. Right.
So you're figuring out how to run an agency. Neither of you had agency experience.
Nothing. Yeah.
So what did the first few years look like then?
Oh goodness, yeah. I mean, you could say it was just like a glorified freelancer operation. Just kind of trying to do projects. We'll kind of knock the door. I mean, we used to trawl Craigslist to be like, oh, are there any businesses that are asking for graphic design or web work? And yeah, it was a lot of that. But just we try to learn as much as we can from whatever we could read online, and then also just by talking to other folks who are the few people that we knew in the agency world, we'd be asking, hey, how do you do XYZ? And so that those were kind of the early kind of learnings that we had, but a lot of it was just trial and error, like just trying to make up stuff as we went. So yeah, I mean, I think that kind of was the reason why we probably grew a lot slower. I think we kind of and like I said, part of like me wanting to do things my own way or whatever, like there's probably a stubbornness at the time when I was younger where it's like, oh, that means not asking for help as readily and just trying to, kind of brute force it on my own. So that was about that.
So 2006, brute forcing it for a while.
Mhm.
At what point did it become an agency? We were talking about, where you're located, having a digital agency in that period of time. That was cool.
Yeah.
And so when did it become cool, not just this glorified, freelancer thing?
I'd say really the turning point was probably 2010, 2011, so about 5 years into it, 4 or 5 years into the operation. So we caught a couple lucky breaks. A couple of our clients were like startups in the solar industry and then the clean energy, and they started taking off. So along with that, just feeding us a lot more work than we ever saw before. So the budgets went up, and so did the volume of work. So that forced us to hire people for the first time, and kind of that we were off the races there. And then I think it was like 2011-ish where like there was a sudden change where the iPad came out, corporate communications, sites were done in Flash, but all of a sudden they need to be done in HTML5. We happened to be well positioned because we were doing a lot of HTML5 at the time. So we end up just being subcontracted by a lot of these marketing communications firms to do all these sites that used to be in Flash in HTML5. So overnight, we went from doing like five $1,000 websites to $50,000 websites, like 10x, just more in complexity, like for big names like GE, Goldman Sachs, just Pepsi, like all these brands. We're just doing their annual reports on in HTML. So that really fed the need for us to just hire people, and so overnight we went from say like three, four people, maybe a couple interns, to having a full-on engineering team, and we were over 30 people in a matter of like months. So that was quite a growth trajectory.
Was that, I mean, that sounds like wonderful timing within the industry. Was that part of the plan? Did you want to build it into something substantial with a lot of people in it originally?
No, I mean that's the thing is I think we stumble into it because like the office that we moved to when we were four people, I thought, wow, this is a wonderful office. I could stay here for the next 10 years. That'd be great. And within less than like 6 months, we outgrew it and we had to move to a bigger office. And yeah, it just like I never, and that's the thing is starting the company young, just being naive and kind of inexperienced in so many different ways. Like there were a lot of things we just had to be reactive to. And I think part of that was like, yeah, like this idea from going from like a practitioner, like doing the design work, to then now having to be a manager, having to build a team. That was a really swift and sudden transformation.
So where'd you learn this? Was it still trial and error? Because now you went from being entrepreneur, not even knowing that term and wanting to really be that term, to now you're being manager,
Yeah.
hiring and recruiting talent, which I want to double tap because it's one of your special skill sets based on how you're building out Barrel. So like, how did you evolve to be like a manager, and how did you and your co-founder delegate those responsibilities?
Yeah. So I think after a couple of years of just being really bad at it, and just to the point where, I just felt like, wow, like I don't know what I'm doing. There was also like this fear, like, oh, someone might quit, and like, we used to just not have like a good, I guess, mindset and also like mental models for how, you should be running a company. So a lot of it, we it was kind of interwrapped with like, you know, feelings of self-worth and other things. So like when somebody quit, we're like, oh, that means we're not good enough or whatever. And just that used to just eat away at us. But luckily, like, I got exposed to, different groups. So this was actually Bureau of Digital, like, just an early iteration of it. They used to have these things called Owner Camp. So I went to one of these things where all these digital agency owners, and, I was by far like probably the youngest, but like I went to one of these and just hearing people talk. There were some people that were, just so well seasoned and kind of thinking about all aspects of agency, right? Or the business development, managing people, just like, how to structure operations, all those things. And it just all of a sudden like this kind of murky thing started to be like, oh, there's terminology to this. There's a map, and these are the gaps that I have that I can go fill. So that was eye opening for me, and just I remember just being super quiet and just kind of absorbing everything, being like, oh, I can't contribute to any of the conversations because I don't know anything. But that really set me on a path to being like, well, like I got to learn this stuff, and the next time I kind of attend these things, I want to be able to contribute more and at least like understand and kind of express my knowledge in this stuff. So yeah, that began really the like the change from trying to feel it out to deliberately like how am I going to learn, like what are the books I'm going to read, how are the and also reflecting on those things. I started writing more seriously. I was like, okay, like let me reflect on what's happened and if when I tried XYZ things and how that played out, and so I started taking my blog more seriously. I started kind of being more of a student of business, and I think at the end of the day that was really the transformation that set me on a different path.
Yeah, it's an important one, and I want to highlight it, which is you're one of a handful that I've seen consistently write out the experience. In the internet marketing space, you had Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income. You had John Lee Dumas, who was doing Entrepreneur on Fire. You had these platforms that were being built where people were articulating the journey that they were on building their digital businesses. And then here you are writing about the agency journey. How dare you, Peter? How cathartic, right? At the end of the day, right? To hold yourself accountable to that. Now, you've gotten to a certain, professional stature, like you've developed over time, you blood, sweat, and years, reinventing the wheel, figuring it out, and then you got to a certain state. So where were you at your, I won't call it the heyday, but before you started transitioning from agency to Holdco, what was the size of Barrel as an agency?
Yeah. I mean, so let's say like we got to about like 50 headcount, like full-time folks, and doing just north of like 7.5 mil a year. And yeah, like I mean, I thought we were kind of on a really unstoppable trajectory. We'd had some roller coaster moments after that, but I think it was around that time where like I started thinking, like this is cool. Like we built it to this scale, and like maybe and also like just my interest started to kind of broaden a bit more because I really got,
Mature.
yeah, mature. And at the same time, I was like, look, there was something about like the idea of investing that really just kind of captured my interest. Just first it was like, all right, like I want to study like public stocks, just like equities, and how to kind of think about business just beyond my agency space as for my own edification, and like also private investments, like the VC side of things, as well as like real estate. So it just became a student of all those things.
Yeah.
The ironic thing is studying more of that helped me bring a lot of the ideas back to, wait a second, I have an asset right here, and I have more knowledge in this thing that like I think I could get a greater return on if I'm able to tap into that and do something with it. So it was kind of by being curious about the investing world that it brought me back to, okay, maybe there's something else I can do beyond just running the agency day to day, to then applying what I've learned over the past 15 plus years into something related within my circle of competency, but in a slightly different way. And yeah, so that got me thinking about alternative ways to kind of run the business.
Great. I mean, you had mentioned being a fan of Warren Buffett. I mean, Warren often references Graham, the intelligent investor, and it's invest in things you know. And you're like, hey, I'm learning all these things about other alternative investments, but I had a business and an asset that I understand really well. How can I turn this into more of an investment vehicle? Is that what I hear you say?
Totally. Yep.
Okay, so what was that first foray into investing as Beryl? What did that look like?
Yeah. So one thing, I mean, like this happened organically, but we thought it kind of killed a lot of birds with one stone. So part of it was we had these client like this set of clients that no longer fit kind of the Barrel's ICP, as Barrel was focusing more into Shopify e-commerce. And these are clients on WordPress, or they might be on Shopify, but like much smaller clients that were just needed some kind of maintenance, ongoing maintenance. And so we decided to, we saw that this was gumming up our operations, a lot of resourcing challenges, booking, a couple hours here, a couple hours there across our team. So we decided to take that portfolio of clients and spin it out as a separate company. And then we had someone internally, a project manager who we were able to turn into a co-founder with us and run that business. And this idea came because we were like, oh, I had read about spin outs and spin-offs and other kinds of business structures that you could have, and even obviously reading about Berkshire and like the holding company model, I was like, oh, we can explore different things. Let's try that out. So that's where Vaulted Oak was born, and just immediately, like right off the bat, we saw just certain operational advantages to this. The way that Jason, who started running this company, was able to streamline how he did things, bring costs down, and then get insane margins off the projects that we had operated inefficiently within Barrel. It was like unlocking value. So we're like, oh, this is really cool to see. How do we you know how do we take this as a learning and kind of maybe apply it again? And not too long after, we decided to do something similar. We had Webflow as a platform that we were getting some deal flow from within Barrel, but we thought that was diluting our Shopify focus. So we decided to spin out another company that was solely focused on Webflow. So that we brought in a CEO, and just seeing that grow right away was also eye-opening as well. So just within a span of a year, we went from 1 to 3 agencies, and just seeing the 2 agencies grow really quickly. That just gave us confidence that we were onto something, and maybe there was another game to be played than just running the one agency.
And a more fun game at that. candidly. So how big were these spinoffs? Just give us an idea of proportion. Was like 4 clients, 10 clients, 1 client? What did it look
Yeah,
like?
well, so Vaulted Oak was about $500,000 worth of business to begin. So like that was like revenue. And then yeah, that was where it started, and then now it's almost three and a half times that size in a few years. And then the BX Webflow one was just leads because we actually we had a few projects here and there for Webflow, but like it was just consistent like 4, 5, 6, maybe even 10 leads a month. That was it. Like we weren't taking all the projects either, so it was like first 2 months like BX was actually closer to zero, but we were able to, because these are kind of small projects, like
Yeah.
5, 10, $15,000, able to turn those and 2-week, 4-week turnaround projects. So we were able to kind of get cash flowing really quickly. And so by month 3 and 4, it was already cash flow positive, and then we were able to just build off of that.
Now, if you're open to sharing it, it's you structured those in interesting ways. And Charlie Munger, right? Show me the incentive, and I'll show you the decision. Uh, how did you approach structuring these spinoffs, especially when you're bringing in an operator who's going to do potentially the lion's share, but you're still supplementing support? Like, how did you approach thinking about that?
Yeah, definitely. And so, I'll share like basically where we ultimately landed because, there were some early kind of missteps maybe, or just kind of, we're just
Learnings.
looking at learnings. But, yeah, ultimately like where we landed with comp is, the person we bring in, to run, be basically, the CEO of that agency, has, a big upside. So they're going to get a significant, profit share, as well as phantom equity, so that in event of a liquidity event, they get a big upside as well. And it's so much, and with a low base. So like basically, our expectation is that like their profit share comp should be 2 to 3x whatever their base is. And so that's kind of how we've structured it. So our CEOs are very laser focused, obviously on top line, but bottom line as well. They're very disciplined about cost, and they're able to be very much like focus on the month to month, and as well as pipeline and all those things.
How much support do they require? And maybe from two perspectives, how much support did you think they were going to need versus how much do you ultimately have to give them?
Yeah, I think in the early days, there's definitely a bit more support. So there's almost like a ramp up period where there's just operational infrastructure we got to help put down, whether that's some process stuff. How do we kind of be more of a sounding board on service design, like kind of packages that we're going to sell. So all those things. Yeah, so I'd say the first, let's say 6 months. Maybe it's instead of meeting once a week, maybe it's meeting 2 or 3 times a week. So there's a little bit of a hand-holding period there. But beyond that, we try to be as hands-off as possible. Just will help set goals, financial goals, annual, quarterly goals. And then beyond that, there's, I'll meet with everyone of our CEOs once a week to talk about, just the overall strategy, any kind of deals that they're working on that they want to kind of, bounce off, just to get a perspective on. And then just, yeah, what are they doing about sales? I mean, about marketing, like how are they investing on the marketing side? And then talent, like any needs on the talent side. So we talk about those things. It's 30 minutes, maybe an hour at most, and like we're able to knock out a lot of things there. And then they also meet with my co-founder. So Sewuk oversees a lot of the finance ops side of things, and so they're talking about cash flow pipeline, just expenses, and so take care of that. So that's the extent. And then once a quarter we meet, they'll come prepared with, hey, how did they do in the quarter financially, as well as like giving a sense of the types of clients they've worked on, some of the things they're excited about, some of the challenges they're having, and it's a nice knowledge share session with everyone.
And so that gets us to BX Studio, the Webflow, right? But you keep going with this, so you got more. Who's next in line for this concept of a Holdco?
No, and I said like the next three are, definitely more nascent and like kind of, works in progress. But having fun with that. So Bolster was the next one, and this one was it was a bit humbling in the sense that like it didn't take off like the first two. So lots of learnings there.
Oh, the third child.
Per child. So the premise was, hey, can we do branding like much more efficiently and frankly like at a lower budget than some of the competitors, but at near the quality. So that was kind of the approach. Um, and we won a few projects early on, so that was promising. But then like just it went crickets for a bit after that. So we really had to think about jump starting the marketing on that, and that's where we stumbled upon this idea of like actually it was an idea that percolating in my mind for a long time, but we call it the Omakase, but basically it's a free brand sprint where you give a few inputs as a customer and then you get a brand design package like brand identity, and we hey, take it or leave it, we don't care, just don't ask for any revisions because it's free, but if you want us to refine it or expand it, then we could talk about paid engagement. So we did that as a customer acquisition way, and I thought it was very radical because we were literally giving creative ideas, this kind of brand identity for free. And the surprising finding was there were a lot of companies, businesses that were taking these designs, and maybe they didn't have budget to work with us right away, but they started actually using it as their identity. And so it was fascinating to see. And there were two stipulations we made. We were like, hey, number one, we're able to use it in our portfolio. Like we're going to be able to talk about it. And you have to allow us to do that. And then the second piece was like, yeah, like if you wanted any kind of revisions, then here's the package that you could buy. So that was basically it. And yeah, this over time, like it started to get sticky, and we converted a lot of them into paying customers. But even more important than that, it led to us meeting a few super connectors along the way. And that was actually the business, because we were like, if you're gonna do it for like, and the target was do 100 of these, and we'll have a business by the end of it. So we're at 93 right now. Actually, this is like in the course of was it last 18 months or so? So like yeah, we're at 93. But we yeah, we met a few super connectors who then ended up bringing in just organically more clients, bigger clients for us.
Now, how are you funding it? Because you're starting with this kind of offer. Is this an investment? So you're expanding the business and you're as an individual, as a holding company, saying, "Hey, we're going to do it." Like, give us a sense of how you're starting this company.
Yeah, so we basically seed some amount of capital to basically back backstop kind of the salary of the co-founder CEO and whoever else there might be.
Very good. All right, that was quick interruption, sped up, but we're going to jump back and finish up with Bolster. Peter, where's Bolster headed?
Yeah, so Bolster is in a much better place than it was earlier in the year. We've got a pretty good pipeline, and one of the adjustments we made was instead of offering just branding, we also became a partner in with Framer. So just kind of following the playbook of Shopify, Webflow, and then also Framer. We're getting some deal flow directly from the Framer partner network as well. So that's been a good adjustment. And so I think yeah, we're on a good trajectory with Bolster as well, and should be looking at yeah, hopefully we're trying to do 7 figures next year.
So essentially, you're funding this as kind of a startup from the Holdco. So you have these businesses that are creating cash flow, creating value, and then you start up a new division with someone you've identified as an operator, and then you fund the startup of that business, giving them incentives to grow it
Yep.
and put them on a target to support. And hopefully, taking the lift off of the things like technology and setting up emails and creating the brand. Like you're making it easier for this startup to be successful.
Yeah, I think the biggest lift is like some of the admin around finance. So a lot of the AR, AP, just bookkeeping, taxes, like we take care of all that on their behalf. And then, yes, there is a bit of seed capital at the beginning to make sure, yeah, like if, especially in the early days, if there's no cash flow in the business or it's not enough to cover the salary of our co-founders, we're able to do that as well.
Okay, so Bolster's going, but you have two others. Catalog.
Yeah. Yeah, Catalog and Prima Mode. So Catalog was our first acquisition that happened this year. And so thank you. Yeah.
Let's stop. Let's hold on for a moment and double tap. You've been building a portfolio of agencies from scratch by splitting off different clients and partners, and it just hit that you had your first acquisition.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, part of that, we probably just had a bias. That's how we started Barrel, so we were kind of sticking with what we knew.
Yeah.
But of course, I think that's gonna change it with Catalog. It's definitely a step in a different path, which we hope to go deeper down. And so yeah, with Catalog, we actually had looked at them a couple of years earlier when we were first contemplating, oh, maybe we could grow the portfolio acquisition, but just a little bit too rich for us at the time. But 2 years hence, like they kind of went through some struggles, especially as there was some dried up VC funding, which impacted their target audience, startups. And so yeah, we felt that this was an opportune time and for us to revisit the conversations. The founder actually reached out to us, and we had a good convo. And we really thought we could be good stewards of the business, and fix a lot of things that were happening inside. So yeah, we took the leap and made a deal with him to take over the business.
Now, one of the most advantageous things to do is to look at something today that even you don't move forward with if it comes back a year or two earlier, because now you've anchored it and you understand where it sits relative to that expectation that they set when maybe they thought very highly of the business or the value of that business. So that was your first acquisition.
Yep.
Any lessons learned in those deal terms, given that was your first one off of the starting from scratch playbook? Anything that you would point out?
Yeah. Well, so in this case, I think what it really opened our eyes to was like we should do a better job of building a talent pipeline for the operator who's going to come in and run this day to day. Because it's certainly like we just didn't have anyone identified. We had been interviewing at the same time we're trying to close the deal, and like the timing just was off enough that like there was like maybe some valuable weeks where the founder really wanted to roll off maybe a month and a half after acquisition, after close. So like we're like, oh man, we gotta capture this as much as possible. But yeah, so that was a big learning. But we eventually did find an operator to come in, a CEO, and he had some overlap with the founder, so it worked out. But yeah, it was a close call. So I think big learning, and we've taken that to heart. So we've been proactively just meeting folks and building this Rolodex of like potential operators that we could tap if and when our next acquisitions happen.
How big was it? Just give us maybe not the very specifics of the deal, but like relative to people size. Like
Yeah, I mean, it was
big.
no, I mean, it was the revs at the time probably around like a mil, looking at like a little bit over a mil for 2024, and yeah, like 8, 9 person team, and so yeah, it was fairly small, in terms of size, and so
Bigger
yeah,
than starting with one person and a new brand.
okay, so I mean, so I just I talked about Bolster and how hard it was just to get it off the ground, and like and we're still nowhere, like we're still ways off from kind of cracking the mill mark on the Bolster side. So I was like, this is crazy. Like for that effort, we could have probably done a few different transactions and just been much further along. So honestly, that was like a huge learning. Was like, hey, this is not again.
Yeah. So that was a formal acquisition. Where's Prima Mode in this? Like, where's this
Yeah,
come from?
so Primo mode, and this is still to be determined because I think there's always an opportunity where like we're looking at Amazon agencies to acquire. So Primo mode is an Amazon agency, like really focused on helping merchants manage their Amazon presence. And so the yeah, this was first, we just wanted to get things rolling with a co-founder. We had been introduced, and we really liked the way the experience she brought and kind of the vision she had for us. So we're like, oh, let's get some early kind of let's get some reps in. And she was inexperienced on the agency side of things, so deep Amazon experience, but kind of limited on the agency side. So we're like, let's get something going, get some early clients just to get things going. But yeah, I think one of the things we're looking at is if there's an acquisition to be had, we can kind of accelerate the growth of this agency. So yeah, by no means it's yeah, like we're not like what do you call beholden to just starting from scratch. I think there's an element of us trying to make sure it grow a bit faster.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of brands that can grow through acquisitions now.
100%.
So if you were to define, like, each one has its own acquisition criteria, but like what's the next thing? Because each one can have a tuck-in and have an add-on. But
Yep.
is there something else that you want to add to expand the portfolio and diversify more? Like, what are you looking for now? So what's the next thing
So
from
yeah,
branding?
especially branding and creative on it, and then let's say marketing, IT, and just platform implementations on the other side, so systems integration, things like that. And yeah, I think we're looking at an agency, let's say in the HubSpot ecosystem,
Great example. Yeah.
yeah, as an
Yeah.
example. So yeah, I think we're very much opportunistic in that way, but it's still to us like in within the realm of type of businesses that we really understand.
Yeah, it fits with under the umbrella, and you can either increase the breadth of your investments and diversify it, but you can also go the depth. Like
Yeah.
there's a consolidation play in every category, whether that be from HubSpot
Yep.
to branding and design to Webflow, right? There's a sub consolidation play at each one. How are you going to prioritize all this? Like how big is the back office going to get?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's super lean right now. It's basically myself, co-founder, and we have a finance person. But yeah, we're gonna invest and see how we can kind of grow that team. But also, at the same time, um, we'll have a clear roadmap in terms of just how we're doing the outbound of the M&A side of things. And I think we'll probably have two tracks. Like one is more of the opportunistic, like different the breadth, and then we'll probably have another mission that's more about hey, like tuck-ins for a couple of these businesses that we think are ready for that as well.
All right, now I'm a big fan of this last bit. So this is how we're going to like wind down, which is what's the goal, Peter? I
Yeah.
mean, is Beryl going to IPO? Are you going to be like Warren and say we're going to sit on this thing for many, many decades? You're going to sell it to private equity? Like, you're still undecided? What's it look like?
So I think it's funny because it's a lot of this a continuation. I talked a lot earlier about just how a lot of things I did when I was young, basically a kid, kind of influenced a lot of what I'm doing now. And honestly, like yeah, work has always felt like play just because I think it's a continuation of what I did when I was younger. And so when Siwak and I really like took a moment to reflect on like, hey, we've done Barrel for almost 2 decades. What do we want the next 20 years to look like? And first of all, like, do we want the partnership to continue? And like, do we feel good about how we can work together in the future? And the answer was yes. Like we, more than ever, we're closer than ever. We, every day we're laughing and just having a good time when we work together. And so we're like, all right, like, what's the next 20 years look like? And this really informed the design of the holding company that we wanted, which was, look, let's maximize for optionality. And part of it is like, let's design it so that, the two of us maintain independence. We can kind of continue calling the shots and doing what we're doing. But at the same time, we create this platform where there's opportunities for, the different partners, the folks, the leaders that we partner with to grow something valuable and have, potentially successful exits, when the time is right, for them to do that. And so, that's how we've optimized so that every company has the option to, at some point, exit. Maybe they could be a tuck-in, maybe they could grow into something that could be a platform for a private equity player or something of that nature. So there's a lot of those things, and then there's others where, hey, maybe it just makes sense, and we can align the leader there to be in it for the long run, and it could be a 10-year hold or a 15-year hold, whatever it might be. So there, we're basically a lot of optionality, but like with the core thing is like, it's crazy. It's the exact same thing we told each other in college. We're like, hey, as long as the two of us get to work together on something, that's like let's do it. So that's yeah, we stay true to that. Is really a business built on that partnership.
So you'll be 90 and still be business partners if you continue on this route. which is good. I mean, if you can spend your life with people you love being around and who add value and you have fun with, why not do it for as long as you can?
Oh,
And I heard you double tap on something which is so helpful. It's not enough just to expand, but you're strategically thinking of divestiture. You're thinking about how to reward the people within the subsidiaries, within the sister companies, within the collective, within the group over time, which creates value for those owners and your business partners. You're thinking more holistically, and you're thinking, at multiple levels. So, Peter, what's the most important advice that you can give Peter of 15 years ago, 10 years ago? What's the nugget that you think you would go
yeah.
back and give yourself?
Oh goodness. I mean, it's like there's two, but then like if I had to really, really pick one, because I think it'll lead to the other one. I think it's this commitment to learning because I think just being curious, just being proactive in just trying to add just more knowledge, more perspectives, auditing perspectives, and just and a lot of that obviously I've done through reading, but also conversations with others who are further along in their journey than I am. But yeah, I think that ultimately leads to a lot of other great things like being able to value relationships, being able to think more strategically, being able to be more disciplined and prioritize personal growth and things like that. So but like it starts with this kind of like desire to learn, and the term that one of the things I always love is like personal mastery is basically the term that comes from a book I love, the Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge. But yeah, that's really I think a big lesson that a younger self, if I could tell it to my younger self, I totally would want to get that across.
The discipline you have to learning for sure. Like you show up every single day. Peter, thank you for giving us a glimpse into Barrel, this wonderful creative holding company that you're very, very close to expanding geometrically. And to see you go from non-agency guy to one of the agency guys running the holding company model is inspiring. And I think a lot of people can uh, aspire to create something like it. And with hopefully this narrative supporting it, realize they're just a few steps closer than they ever thought before. Peter, I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Peter, for joining us today. And thank you for listening to Agency Acquisitions and Exits. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Give us a follow. We post stories from industry experts and how they sold or acquired agencies. If you or someone you know should be on the show to talk about this agency journey that we're all on, look for our email in the comments. Reach out. We'd love to talk to you. As always, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Stay safe.